Oh, hi there. In the studio with me at the bench, it's the Director General of the SIS. I kid you not, an Ashburton boy. There's Ashburton, Waterton, and Ivleton blood flowing through those veins.
That's true.
Yes. Let's, Andrew Hampton, talk about growing up in Mid Canterbury a bit. Because
Well,
you and I did a bit of that together.
that's true. Well, firstly, Phil, thank you for having me at the bench. It's great to be back in the district, as they say, and great to catch up with you. Yes, as you said, I grew up on a farm south of Ashburton on Waterton, went to Flemington School. I think at its height it had 23 kids. Then from there went to Ashburton College, where I met your brother, who's still a very good friend of mine. You know, my memories of growing up in this town are largely fond ones. You know, I enjoyed living in the country. I enjoyed the outdoors, but I did find when I got to college, going from a school of a couple of dozen people to a school of 1,500, I found my people then, and Ashburton College was very good to me. I had some great teachers. I was involved with athletics and a bunch of things like that. And as I said, friends I made at the college are still my friends now.
Mm-hmm.
I remember 10 Cross Street well.
Everybody does.
Yes, this was where Phil and his two brothers grew up and was a regular hangout on a Friday night. I, of course, didn't go there during lunchtime. I was too diligent at school. I didn't wag school or anything.
What
like
about
that.
to the hospital shop, to the back of the hospital shop? You must
Yes,
have gone there in the day.
I went there
Yes.
to the Hooper's shop, but no, the one that I remember most well was this sewing shop in the arcade.
Uh-huh.
So I'd regularly go to Record World and buy my fortnightly fix of vinyl, then pop down and see your mum at the sewing shop and say hi.
Yeah.
So they're my memories of Ashburton, but it's not just memories. I still have strong connections to this place. My mum lives in town. My brother and sister, one's in Pleasant Point, one's in Cave. The farm I grew up on, it got sold, I think, to Sinlay in 2016, and my brother now is down in South Canterbury, but I'm down here regularly.
Awesome. Right, so you're going through college, you're doing athletics, you've got some good teachers, you're in a school band,
Oh, barbed wire.
barbed wire,
Yeah.
and which then morphed into Shameless Jones.
And then WAD after that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Shameless Jones, the height was, it was something on the university radio scene, wasn't it?
Well, it was. I remember we went to some battle of the bands up in Christchurch, and we were competing against cover bands. We were like, sixth and seventh formers playing our sort of original, sort of country punk, I guess it was. And our song, I can't quite remember exactly what it was called. Something about a Honda Civic.
Yes.
And Hoops' song "Mother Wears Army Boots to Church." They were hits, and got some mentions on the radio. So that was barbed wire, and then Shameless Jones. We did all right. Indeed, we reformed for your brother's 50th birthday party not long ago.
Yes,
But I was never going to make it. I tried, but was never going to make it as either an indie rock musician or a radio DJ. Tried both of those, so I had to go and join the public service eventually.
right. Yeah, let's talk about that. After school, where did you head off to?
Yes, I went to Canterbury University and I studied history and political science there. Finished up with a master's degree. Did a short stint overseas, which was fun, but I think was always destined to work in the public service. And the types of jobs that attracted me were ones that, focused on, New Zealand's place in the world, focused on, that balance between, the rights of the individual as well as the important role that the state plays in protecting those rights. I, spent the first 10 years of my life working in the treaty settlement area at the Crown Māori interface. Indeed, my master's thesis was looking at sort of constitutional change in New Zealand to better reflect, the role of iwi Māori. So that was a great area to start my career in. The map of the country never looks the same, having worked with iwi in the way that I did. I did a bit of United Nations work there, representing the government in United Nations negotiations around essentially international law for Indigenous rights. So that was all great, but you can't do that work forever. So I then moved over to the courts side of Ministry of Justice and ended up, overseeing the running of the court system for a while, and that was around the time of the Christchurch earthquakes. So was involved with running a court system without access to any court buildings, which was very challenging. And did a bunch of other jobs across government, but I was always interested in this area of sort of intelligence and security and New Zealand's place in the world, and getting that balance right between the rights and responsibilities of the individuals and the role of the government helping to protect and secure those. So I then, in 2016, got the role of Director General of the Government Communication Security Bureau. So that's like the government's cybersecurity agency, but also what's called signals intelligence. So gathers intelligence, primarily foreign intelligence about what's happening around the world by electronic means. And that was an amazing job and very rewarding, but again, couldn't do that for forever. So after 7 years, I applied for the role I have now, which is Director General of Security, so the head of the New Zealand SIS.
So the difference between those two roles,
Yeah.
one's more cyber, but there's a whole bunch of links there, right?
They're both in the business of national security,
Yes.
and I can talk more about that, but national security is essentially protecting the stuff that's most important to New Zealanders, protecting our democracy, our well-being, our prosperity, and that always has to be a collective effort. It involves different agencies working together, but it also involves agencies like ours working across society to protect that stuff that's most important. So the two agencies share the same mission, if you like, but they do the mission in quite different ways.
Yes, yeah.
So whereas GCSB is primarily focused around cybersecurity and focused around electronic intelligence and focused externally, NZSIS is more focused on threats directly to New Zealand. So we're a security intelligence agency. We're concerned about things like terrorism. We're concerned about things like foreign interference and espionage. But we're also concerned about the implications of what's called geostrategic competition, competition between states and how that plays out in New Zealand. Our intelligence role is often referred to as human intelligence. So we get intelligence directly from people as opposed to from electronic communications. So yes, we do that stuff you see in the movies, running sources, undertaking surveillance, both physical and technical surveillance. We do interception, that type of thing, interception of communications, but increasingly it's about working with people across society to both understand what the threats are they're seeing. About 20% of our leads now come from the public, but also helping them to build their resilience. So that's one difference. They're a signals intelligence agency, we're a human intelligence agency. They're more externally focused, we're more domestically focused. But we also have a foreign intelligence role. It's not about intercepting communications and things floating around the world. It's more about working with our Pacific partners in the region to understand what's happening there, but also to share more intelligence with Pacific states so they can make decisions around the threats that are playing out in the region.
Some might say, small wee place at the bottom of the world, do we need to worry about all this stuff?
Yeah, I think in the past, New Zealand has felt that our geographical isolation provided, quite a degree of security. And in the past, that may have been the case, but it's certainly not now. Our prosperity as a country, our well-being, depends on us being connected with the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be able to communicate. We need the reasonably free flowing of people and money across our borders. But as a result of that, national security threats that play out in the rest of the world and impact on our country. So, New Zealand in the last 5 years has had 2 terrible terrorist attacks. And in both cases, the perpetrators of those attacks, took inspiration from things that, were occurring overseas. In the cybersecurity world, everyone's your neighbour. Everyone's just a click away, and New Zealand is subject to cyber attacks from all around the world. And some of those are the high-end, sophisticated state-sponsored attacks that agencies like mine have, or my previous agency had previously been mainly focused on, but increasingly it's criminal stuff.
Yeah.
But then I talked about that geostrategic competition. The world is a very unstable and disrupted place at the moment, whether we're talking about wars in Eastern Europe and the Middle East, or the geostrategic competition we're seeing playing out in our region. New Zealand's not immune to that either, and that sometimes results in what's called foreign interference, which is other states seeking to promote their interests in ways that aren't necessarily in line with our interests, but they do it in deceptive, corruptive, coercive ways. And every government, including New Zealand, tries to influence other governments, and that's completely fine if it's transparent. But when it's not, that creates real risk. And in New Zealand, we are seeing, as a result of that geostrategic competition playing out in the world, more of that foreign interference. Some of it's aimed at the political level, including local government, including potentially councillors like yourself. Some of it's, as you'll probably expect, focused on, academic institutions, the media, businesses, but often it's focused on community groups as well. You're having other states trying to, control the narrative, suppress dissent from, communities who are based here. So, that's sort of my world. That's what I'm focused on.
Five Eyes.
Yeah.
Was that the previous role, or is that more this role?
The Five Eyes is an intelligence sharing partnership between New Zealand, Australia, Canada, the US, and the UK. It started off primarily as a signals intelligence partnership over 70 years ago, so more about my old role. But it is broadened beyond that. So security intelligence agencies like mine, we meet regularly with our counterparts, and I can talk about that in a bit if you want, because New Zealand gets huge benefit from those partnerships. The things I want to emphasise is that whilst we work closely with those partners, each country has its independent foreign policy. Each country has its own national intelligence priorities. Each country has its own laws and authorising regimes which ensure that our national interest is always the priority. But having said that, if it wasn't for the intelligence we get, the technical advice we get, the relationships we have with our partners, New Zealand would be more at risk. New Zealand also, and we get into the stuff I can't really talk that much about, New Zealand makes important contributions to those partnerships as well. So look, that Five Eyes thing is key, and yeah, an example, end of last year, I was over in the States with the head of the FBI, the head of MI5, the head of the Canadian outfit, which is called NZSIS, and the head of the Australian organisation, ASIO. And, we got together to talk about foreign interference threats to technical or technology innovation, in IT. So we all agreed a bunch of principles that we see as useful to help protect that innovation. And we got on the stage and talked about that. The world's media were there. It was on US 60 Minutes, that type of thing. So, that's cool stuff to do, but it's also really important to people who don't necessarily share the same values as our country to know that we are working together to counter those threats.
Yes. Yeah. And man, that whole world, and you add in, AI, and there's, that is huge. There's a whole lot of work for you to do there.
Yeah, well, emerging technology does have a range of national security implications. Of course, things like AI, quantum computing, the next generation of telecommunications technology, all has huge benefits for the world, without a doubt. But all of those things can be exploited for national security purposes. There's also, coming back to that, strategic competition playing out now around who actually is going to control that stuff, who's going to control the standards for it, who's going to control the IP, who's going to control the market share. And, New Zealand, as a small country, we can't be passive in that, but that's why we need to work with others to ensure that those national security implications are known and managed.
When you first sat at the Five Eyes table, was that when you got a message from Mr. Putin saying, "You're on my watch list, Sonny"?
No. I've been going to Five Eyes meetings since 2016. We tend to get together on a reasonably regular basis, at least once or twice a year. But no, I think I'm on the list of people who can't travel to Russia because in my GCSB role, we had called out Russia along with some other countries for malicious cyber activity, so they probably didn't like that too much. But I also did a speech a couple of years ago, soon after the invasion of Ukraine, where I talked about the work that intelligence agencies were doing to help, the Ukrainians defend their democracy, and I'm not sure that went down so well.
Right.
There's quite a long list of people though on the list who've been banned, so I'm not that special.
Oh, so you're not like a top 20 hit just yet?
I was in the first bunch who were called out from New Zealand, but there's hundreds of people around the world.
Do you think there's some alarms going off in Moscow just there, watching this?
Oh, look, I think national security is one of those things that needs to be talked about, and that's why I think it's great that you're running this podcast. If it was left to just agencies like the ones I lead or my previous one to protect all those things that are important, we just wouldn't get there. So part of the role why I'm down in the South Island now is, of course, the primary event is to come and talk to you, but it's doing a series of meetings with universities, with local councils, with community groups to just help raise awareness around those national security threats, but also to give some practical advice around what you do about it. Because whether it's cybersecurity or foreign interference, or even seeing the signs of someone mobilizing to violent extremism, we've got quite a lot of sort of practical advice to give to people, but they don't always know it's there or know what to look out for. So our job is twofold. Yes, it's investigating those threats. It's informing decision makers in government around what's happening, but it's also about talking to the public generally as much as we can about what they can do to spot those threats and mitigate them without disclosing our sources and methods and things like that need to be kept secret.
Is it things like not downloading Temu apps and...
Look,
you're about to burst my wife's bubble here, I feel.
There's a whole range of things. So, with with cybersecurity, not my role anymore, but know a bit about it. There's very sophisticated actors, many of them state-sponsored, who have capabilities that require agencies like my former agency to help defeat them. And unfortunately, there's criminal groups now who have those sorts of capabilities. The fact is, though, most New Zealanders can protect themselves from the vast bulk of cyber threats by doing just the basic stuff. Strong passwords, two-factor authentication, keep your security patches up to date. Don't click on dumb shit. If you're, in a job like yours as a counsellor, or a job like mine, have some separation between your private device and, your work device. Things like that will protect most New Zealanders from the bulk of stuff. And there's lots of really good advice on, the GCSB's website around what you can do there. In terms of, my current role in that whole violent extremism space, we've developed some useful guidance that we make available to schools, government organisations, community groups, just on what are some of the signs to look out for someone who may be mobilising towards violence, whether it be the online activity, whether it be some of the stuff they might be saying, or one example is people suddenly starting to adopt security practices and keeping stuff secret. And people probably will see that behaviour and go, well, that looks a bit odd. But the idea of putting this guidance out there is so they can go, actually, if you look at that type of behaviour with this behaviour and maybe this other behaviour, there could be something of concern there, and this is what you do about it. This is who you talk to. This is who you raise it with. Agencies like ours don't do mass surveillance. We can't read everything that's on the internet. As I said, increasingly we get lead information from the public. In most cases, someone will see something. They just need to have the confidence to call it out. So that's in the violent extremism space. But then coming back to the whole foreign interference and espionage piece, and this is what I'm going to be. I've got some more meetings today with the council and others. This is what I'm going to be talking about there. We've got good advice on what are the signs that suggest you may be targeted by a foreign interference actor. As I said, there's a number of countries we know who are undertaking foreign interference and espionage. So what does that actually look like in practice, and what do you do to mitigate it? Because sometimes it may just be someone not being entirely transparent about who they are, who are wanting to build long-term influence over time to try and influence your decision-making. And as I said, that would be fine if they're completely upfront about it, but if it's happening in a covert way, that is foreign interference. Similarly, we are really concerned about, what we call diaspora communities, communities who may have links back to another country, and that country is trying to, shape the narrative, suppress dissent and things like that. And again, people may see that playing out in local government and elsewhere, and we want to know about it.
Right. I notice your pause, and you think, I'm sure, what exactly can I say here?
Yeah.
Is that secretive side of your role? Yeah. How do you find all that?
Yeah. Well, agencies like ours, to be effective, need to keep our sources and methods secret. If you're an intelligence agency, you're not going to be that successful at collecting intelligence if everyone knows how you do it. More than that, some of the activities that my agency undertakes, my previous agency undertakes, it would be illegal if it wasn't done by us and properly authorised. So, a couple of points about that. So when you're undertaking secret activity, intrusive activity, it's really important that the public have public trust and confidence in what you're doing. So we have robust oversight, we have an independent inspector general, we have a dedicated committee of parliament, we don't set our own priorities, they're set by the government. We need to get activities properly authorised, all of that sort of stuff. But another part of public trust and confidence is being able to talk publicly as much as you can about what we do and why we do it. I think in the past, if you go back 10 years or so, agencies like mine would never appear in public. They'd never do something like this.
Yep.
And as a result, the public didn't really know what they did. And when the only time they saw people from agencies like mine was when something went wrong and they had to front up to it. So I see my role as walking the line between those two things, ensuring that we have the right capabilities, the right relationships, the right tools to, undertake our job effectively, and keeping those things secret. Similarly, keeping secret all of the information we get from our international partners, because if there was a big breach here, we would be in big trouble. On the flip side, an equally important part of my role is to talk to the public about why we exist, the nature of the threats we face, how we're held accountable to maintain the public trust and confidence, but also coming back to a theme that we've already been discussing is the public are going to be seen as much of this stuff as we do. They are as much a part of national security as us. So it's just about balancing it. But look, some quite practical things. To work at a place like mine, you need a top secret special security clearance. So that's quite an comprehensive set of vetting. I would face significant criminal penalties if I breached the security commitments that I've signed up to. So you've got to take this stuff seriously.
Yeah, 100%. It's kind of an extension of back in the day. I used to have the local senior sergeant police, and they'd say, if you see something that doesn't sit quite right with you in your neighbourhood, you need to let us know about that. And that's kind of what you, in a roundabout way, saying, if you're seeing something that's ringing some alarm bells, here's some practical advice, and if these steps are you feel like this is going down this street, let us know.
That's exactly it. And look, you talked about the police. Our agencies work really closely with other agencies across government. Foreign affairs, defence. The border agencies like customs, but police are a particularly strong partner for us. We aren't a law enforcement agency. We can't arrest anyone, and nor should we. Police, like us, are focused on things like counter-terrorism. So we join up closely with them. If you are seeing something that is, someone who is about to undertake some sort of terrorist act or something, like ring 111. Police are always the first port of call.
Yes.
You can also ring their 105 number if there's something that's not urgent but a more general suspicion. But similarly with us, on our website, we've got a portal where you can, lodge stuff you're seeing of concern. And similarly, we have, liaison officers, if you want a personal touch, you can meet with, and they, you just need to, there's an email you can send to them. The thing with our world is, we operate in that, classified space. So, you may not get a call straight back, but you shouldn't mean that we're not taking it seriously. Sometimes the information that you've provided could be that missing link in building up a much fuller intelligence picture. And as I said, if we, as a result of our intelligence activity, we see that there is a real threat to life or criminal activity, we work closely with police, and chances are it will be more likely it will be police rather than us who would be taking the steps to disrupt it.
If a young Mid Cantabrian's watching this, and let's face it, they all do, and they're thinking, intelligence agency, that's sort of, that's ringing my bells.
Yeah.
Encourage it?
Oh, definitely. Look, my current organisation, my previous organisation, firstly, you get to do work there you don't get to do anywhere else. There's that international dimension that I've talked about. There's that connection across government piece, but there's also the engaging with community. So it's interesting work. It's only getting more important the nature of the threatscape is constantly evolving. So, every day is different, challenging and rewarding. In terms of the skills that we're after, we have a whole range of jobs. I talked about, we have case officers who run sources, so they've got to be people who are pretty good at that human to human stuff. Bit of life experience helps with that. We've got investigators and analysts, so we're after people, normally with a good degree there. I wouldn't say there's a particular type of degree we're after, but a good quality degree helps with those analytical skills. Increasingly, our work involves working with data and technology. So, we're after engineers and computer scientists and the like. But, like every government agency, we have, strategy people, we have HR people, we have finance people. And you get to do that in a quite interesting context. So, being a HR manager when your staff all need to have cover and no one actually knows who they are or who pays them, that's an interesting challenge. Being a finance manager when a big part of your role is covert finance. So how do you actually get money that can't be traced back to the government into people's hands for operational purposes? So that's all exciting. So look, I guess, though, we are ultimately wanting people who have the character and commitment that we need to do this work. So, people who are loyal New Zealanders, people who have a commitment to that mission that I've talked about, but also people who have good judgment and nuance and understand that the world is not completely black and white and are able to navigate through that.
Yeah, I dare say no day is the same as the one before it.
No.
And longevity in this gig, how long do you reckon? Obviously you love it. I can feel the passion for the role.
I'm on a fixed term contract, so chief executives generally have a 5-year period. So I had 5 years at GCSB, and then I got renewed for another 3 years, and I was coming up to the second year mark. I thought I'd better get another job, and I love this work so much. Unfortunately, this other role came up. So I'm 1 year into a 5-year contract, so I've probably got another four years after this one. I find with jobs, though, the best time to leave them is when you're loving them the most, and so you can't stay doing the same stuff for forever. So that was the case with the treaty settlement stuff. That was amazing. Mm-hmm. Was the stuff with the Bureau role. I'm sure it will be the case with this one.
Fascinating to talk.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you so much for your time. Good to see you again, Phil. Yep, likewise. Right. And enjoy your stay back home.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing the new traffic you get on your Facebook page as a result of this podcast.
Yes.
All right.
I think I do too.
All right.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.